Have you ever found yourself holding onto a relationship simply because it's familiar? Maybe it's a longtime friend, a partner, or even a close family member who, despite the years and shared memories, no longer seems aligned with the person you're becoming. If you're at a crossroads, questioning whether to continue or let go, you're not alone. In these moments, we often feel torn, almost like we're betraying a part of ourselves for even considering the idea of moving on. It's natural to feel loyal to those we've known for years, yet there's a deep-seated urge within us to grow, to pursue a path that might look very different from the one we started with. Here's where the wisdom of Stoicism offers a path to clarity. The Stoics believed in cultivating relationships that not only fit who we are, but also who we are striving to become. They saw life as an evolving journey, where growth sometimes meant choosing connections that uplift and challenge us, even if that choice is difficult. Today, let's dive into what Stoicism has to teach us about navigating relationships wisely, especially those that might no longer serve us. This isn't about abandoning people out of coldness or apathy, but about understanding when it's time to make space for connections that inspire our best selves. As we embark on this journey, we'll explore how the teachings of Stoic philosophers like Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, and Epictetus can guide us in choosing the right relationships with clarity, courage, and compassion. Let go of stagnant relationships is indeed a difficult, often painful, endeavor, yet a necessary one on the path to self-knowledge and personal growth. Reflect, then, upon the nature of relationships and our expectations of them. We frequently believe that connections we form with others, especially those imbued with love, familiarity, or shared experience, are meant to endure without change. We often assume that loyalty requires an unyielding commitment, that by clinging to these bonds, we honor the past and maintain a continuity that feels secure. But what if this unexamined loyalty begins to undermine our progress? What if, by remaining tethered to what once was, we prevent the possibility of what could be? Relationships, like all things in nature, have their seasons, and just as the gardener tends to the plants, cutting away that which no longer serves, so too must we tend to the connections in our lives. I have often pondered the metaphor of life as a garden in need of diligent care. It is neither harsh nor unkind to recognize when certain parts must be pruned for the health of the whole. If we are to cultivate our own souls with wisdom, we must sometimes loosen our grip on those who, while once a source of joy or comfort, no longer nourish us in our journey. Imagine yourself burdened by a pack filled with stones. Each stone represents a relationship, some light, like pebbles that we barely notice as we carry them, others heavy, weighing us down and pressing into our shoulders. Those lightweight stones are like friendships that refresh and support us, bringing encouragement and shared purpose. But the heavy ones? These are the connections that drain, that constrain, that demand energy we no longer have to give. As we walk the path of life, the weight of those heavy stones accumulates, often without our realizing it. The mind resists parting with them, clinging to the comfort of past joys, the memories of what once was. Yet Stoic wisdom asks us to pause, to examine these burdens closely and decide if they still align with our purpose. The choice to let go is not a matter of resentment, nor is it a judgment upon the other. It is, rather, an act of fidelity to our own growth and theirs. To loosen the grip on these bonds is not to reject the people themselves, but to honor the natural divergence of paths. In making space for lighter connections, we also allow ourselves the freedom to encounter new experiences, to cultivate bonds that foster mutual growth. A stagnant relationship, if clung to too tightly, may bind both parties, stalling each in their own journey. And if we are to live as the Stoics advise, aligned with nature and our highest purpose, then we must acknowledge that sometimes the most compassionate act is to release, to part ways with gratitude rather than regret, knowing that by doing so, we honor the time shared, while also freeing each to pursue a path that is unburdened and true. So, let us not fear the act of releasing, but approach it as one approaches the shedding of autumn leaves, knowing that the tree must let go to prepare for new growth in the spring. Embrace this wisdom, and when the time comes, part with courage and respect, allowing both yourself and others the freedom to evolve as nature intends. Reflect, then, upon the nature of the relationships you hold, and remember that not every connection we form in life will aid us in becoming the best versions of ourselves. There are ties that invigorate us, that challenge us to exceed our own limits. And then there are those that feel heavy, like burdens upon the soul, ties that hinder rather than support, stagnate rather than inspire. Consider these relationships carefully. As Seneca often urged, to live fully is to evolve, to reach higher, to become more, each day surpassing the former. If a connection impedes this essential transformation, we must ask, with unwavering clarity, what role it now plays in our lives. Is this person an ally in your growth, or a silent adversary? Life, with all its complexity, reveals a spectrum of friendships and bonds. Some serve as mirrors, reflecting back to us the image of our truest potential, calling forth strength and courage that we did not know lay within. These are friends and partners who, even in challenging us, do so with a spirit that seeks our improvement. Others, however, erode that confidence and sow doubt in place of ambition. Perhaps it is the friend who dismisses your dreams with cynicism, who subtly belittles what matters most to you, or perhaps it is the partner who sees your victories not as something to celebrate, but as unwelcome reminders of their own limitations. These relationships are not inherently harmful, yet they come to a place where they no longer nourish us. And so, we must recognize the quiet signs, not with judgment, but with compassion for ourselves and for them. It is not a matter of blame or resentment, but one of discernment. We each bear a responsibility to ourselves to seek growth, to seek the company of those who do not merely allow our progress, but actively encourage it. For what is friendship, if not a shared commitment to the elevation of one another's spirit? What is companionship, if not the willingness to walk alongside another as they journey toward their highest potential? And if, after reflection, we find that a particular connection restricts this growth, if we find that their presence in our lives no longer harmonizes with our own aspirations, then let us be prepared to act. The Stoic mind is not given to impulsive severance, but to thoughtful, measured choices. Take a moment to engage in honest conversation, to bring light to the dissonance between the paths you are each on. For often, it is through open dialogue that clarity is achieved, that unspoken truths find voice, and that both parties can move forward, be it together, renewed, or apart, with respect. Do not be afraid to seek the company of those who celebrate your victories, who mourn your losses with you, and who rejoice in the pursuits that fill your heart with purpose. Those who genuinely care will align themselves with the direction in which you strive, even if they themselves tread a different path. Those who diminish or undervalue your ambition, whether through indifference, envy, or ignorance, perhaps belong to a former chapter of your life. We need not carry every bond forward indefinitely. To release a connection that no longer serves both parties is an act of honor and wisdom, not cruelty. So, I urge you to examine with honest eyes the relationships you hold. Are they stepping stones on the path toward virtue and fulfillment, or weights that slow your ascent? And choosing the company of those who uplift, encourage, and hold you accountable. You cultivate a life that aligns with nature's design, a life ever in pursuit of the good. Reflect upon the nature of emotions and recognize that they are as much a part of our human experience as the very breath we draw. Yet, while they arise naturally, it is not our task to surrender to them, but to navigate them with wisdom and clarity. Remember, we cannot control the circumstances of our lives, nor the words or actions of others, but we hold dominion over our own minds and responses. In this lies our power, our peace, and our purpose. Emotions such as jealousy, anger, or resentment may indeed emerge within us when we encounter the successes or joys of others, even those whom we consider close. Here lies an invitation to pause and examine the stirrings of our hearts. If a friend's achievement sparks jealousy, what does this reveal about our own state of mind? Stoic philosophy encourages us to see such moments not as sources of turmoil, but as opportunities for profound self-reflection, rather than succumbing to the impulse of comparison. Let us see this emotion as a signal, a reminder that there may be areas within us that seek growth. Areas perhaps clouded by insecurity or ambition unfulfilled. Ask yourself, what lies beneath this envy? What desires or aspirations have I neglected within myself that this success in another now reveals? In this way, we transform the emotion of jealousy from a source of bitterness into a guide, pointing us toward our own development. The Stoics understood that every negative emotion we experience is a reflection, a mirror held up to our inner world, showing us parts of ourselves that yearn for attention and refinement. Through this lens, we can look at jealousy not as a flaw, but as an ally in our journey of growth. Consider 2. The nature of anger. It rises in us as if by force, a flame that, if left unchecked, can consume the harmony within and poison our interactions with those we hold dear. But remember, anger is a response, not a commandment. We may feel it, but it does not rule us. Stoicism teaches us that we can choose to observe this fire, to see it without allowing it to spread destruction. In doing so, we master it, and by mastering it, we bring ourselves closer to tranquility. Let us also bear in mind that our relationships are meant to be spaces of mutual encouragement, sanctuaries where both individuals can find support for their highest aims. If we allow jealousy or anger to taint these bonds, we turn our places of refuge into battlegrounds. But if we use each emotion as a teacher, as a guide pointing us back to ourselves, then we keep our relationships sacred. We transform these connections into sources of strength, where both parties grow not through comparison or resentment, but through mutual respect and shared aspiration. And what peace this brings! By managing our emotional responses, by choosing to respond with patience rather than impulse, we cultivate not only inner harmony but also harmonious relationships. We teach ourselves to be steadfast amidst life's inevitable storms, to remain calm in the face of others' victories or differences, and to honor the sanctity of our bonds. Thus, in navigating our emotions with wisdom, we foster not only our own peace, but also a foundation of enduring unity and respect within our relationships. Remember always that the ultimate aim is to make of our minds a fortress of strength and clarity, unshaken by the winds of fleeting emotions. In this, we achieve a mastery that not only elevates our personal journey, but blesses all those who walk alongside us. So let your relationships be sanctuaries of encouragement, built not on comparison, but on a commitment to each other's growth. Each emotion a stepping stone in your shared journey toward virtue. Consider carefully the nature of freedom, not merely as an external condition, but as the sovereignty of one's own mind and will. To be free is not solely to walk unshackled, but to govern oneself with clarity and intention, to remain steadfast in one's values and choices. As Epictetus wisely observed, no one is free who is not master of himself. In this, He speaks to the heart of autonomy, the ability to remain unbowed by the will of another, to choose one's own path and walk it without undue influence. In relationships, this freedom is sacred and must be honored as the foundation of any true connection. Reflect, then, upon the dynamics within your relationships. True companionship honors and protects the autonomy of each individual, allowing each to pursue their aspirations, to uphold their values without coercion or compulsion. But beware, for manipulation can creep in subtly, often disguised as concern, as suggestions, or as seemingly harmless comments. A partner or friend may attempt to steer you away from the pursuits that ignite your spirit, masking their own interests or insecurities under a veil of care. They may criticize your dreams, not with direct malice, but with the intention of planting seeds of doubt, subtly shaping your path according to their desires rather than yours. The Stoic approach implores us to recognize these signs early, to attune ourselves to the subtle shifts in tone or expectation that may indicate a manipulation of our own will. Do not dismiss these as minor slights, for small, persistent acts of control can, over time, erode the very core of your independence, and with it, the essence of who you are. Autonomy, once compromised, breeds resentment and internal disquiet, for the soul knows when it is bending to a force it did not choose. Consider the impact of guilt used as a weapon, a friend or loved one who, in subtle ways, imposes an emotional toll for setting boundaries, who sows discomfort whenever you assert your own needs or pursue your own course. This guilt is a heavy chain, designed not to nurture but to restrict, binding you to the other's expectations and limiting your freedom to act in accordance with your own nature. True relationships should elevate, not confine, allowing each individual to flourish within their own realm of growth and self-expression. We are called, then, to assess our relationships with discernment. Are they spaces where mutual respect thrives? Or do they serve as covert instruments of control? Are our companions willing to walk beside us, without pulling or pushing, and to rejoice in our individuality as we do in theirs? If we find that a relationship operates more on manipulation than on genuine support, it is our duty to address this imbalance. This is not a call to sever ties in haste, but to protect our own sovereignty, to ensure that we are not allowing ourselves to become merely reflections of another's will. The Stoic mind values self-mastery above all. We cannot hand over this mastery to another without diminishing ourselves in the process. To retain our autonomy within relationships is to live in alignment with nature, to remain true to the principles of self-respect and mutual regard. Seek connections that uplift, that respect your choices, that do not infringe upon the sanctity of your inner freedom. For the highest form of companionship is one that honors the independence of both parties, allowing each to grow without interference, to offer support without encroachment. When we hold fast to this ideal, we protect not only our own freedom but also the integrity of our relationships. We transform our connections from mere alliances into sanctuaries of respect and encouragement. So remain vigilant, mindful of the subtle intrusions upon your will, and let your relationships reflect the purity of freedom. In this way, you will walk with strength, untouched by the need to conform, empowered by a loyalty to yourself that no external influence can sway. Reflect upon the essence of respect, for it is the cornerstone upon which all worthy human connections are built. In truth, respect is not merely an obligation we owe to others, it is a testament to the dignity inherent in each soul. Every individual, by virtue of their humanity, carries an intrinsic worth, a spark of reason, and a capacity for growth that demands our regard. Without respect, a relationship is like a structure lacking a solid foundation, no matter how beautifully adorned. It stands ready to collapse at the slightest tremor. To respect another is to recognize this inner dignity, to honor the inherent worth that resides within them as surely as it resides within ourselves. For the Stoics, this recognition was not a matter of mere courtesy or formality, but a fundamental alignment with the principles of nature and virtue. Respect binds us to each other in understanding, allowing us to engage without diminishing or seeking dominance. In its absence, the relationship falters, vulnerable to erosion by distrust, resentment, and disillusionment. Disrespect, while often subtle, manifests in myriad ways: a dismissive glance, a condescending tone, or the habitual undermining of another's perspectives. These may appear as minor slights, insignificant on the surface, but they carry the weight of erosion, gradually chipping away at the foundations of trust and mutual regard. Each time we dismiss or belittle, we violate the sacredness of the bond that unites us, leaving behind fractures that may never fully heal. Consider this: when we fail to respect others, we fail to respect ourselves. For in seeking to elevate ourselves above another, we reveal a weakness in our own character, a lack of virtue. For how can one truly honor their own worth while disregarding the worth of others? A relationship grounded in respect sees each person as a whole, as a being with unique thoughts, emotions, and aspirations, all worthy of understanding. It is in this regard that trust flourishes. For when we are respected, we feel safe to reveal our true selves, to share openly without fear of scorn or reproach. To respect is also to accept that we are not the center of the universe, that others possess views and desires just as real, just as legitimate as our own. This understanding fosters a profound humility, reminding us that our way is not the only way. A relationship without this humility, where one seeks to impose their perspective while disregarding the others, is bound to crumble, for it is built on the false pretense of superiority rather than the balance of mutual appreciation. Let us be mindful, then, to nurture respect in every bond we forge. Seek to understand before judging, to listen before responding, and to honor before dismissing. In doing so, we cultivate a soil in which trust and companionship can grow, creating a fortress of connection that withstands the tests of time and adversity. For when respect is present, a relationship is not only strong but uplifting, a source of shared growth and wisdom. When respect fades, however, what remains is but a hollow shell, a connection in name alone, devoid of substance or strength. And thus, with each act of disregard, we dismantle that which we once valued, rendering it vulnerable to collapse. Let us not be so careless with what is sacred. Instead, let us recognize that respect is the highest form of acknowledgement, an expression of the harmony between souls, grounded in the understanding that each person, regardless of their role in our lives, reflects a piece of the divine. Guard this respect as you would guard your own virtue, for they are bound together inextricably. Without respect, virtue falters, and without virtue, respect becomes hollow. Remember always that it is not enough to demand respect. We must embody it, practice it, and offer it freely to those around us. In this way, we uphold the integrity of our relationships and the honor of our own character, forging connections that reflect the depth of our humanity and the truth of our principles. Reflect upon the nature of illusions in our relationships and recognize how often we become ensnared by them. It is a tendency deeply embedded in our human nature to see others not as they truly are, but as we wish them to be. We craft idealized images, hoping that reality will bend to align with our expectations. But in doing so, we deceive ourselves. For what is more dangerous to the soul than clinging to a mirage, mistaking it for truth? Consider how frequently we hold fast to comforting fantasies, ignoring the signs, the inconsistencies, the quiet warnings that reality whispers to us. Perhaps it is a friend, a partner, or even a family member whose actions or values no longer align with ours. Yet, driven by nostalgia or hope, we persist in seeing them through the lens of past moments, unwilling to face the uncomfortable truths that time has revealed. But Stoic wisdom urges us to dispel these illusions. For in clarity lies our freedom. To truly honor those we are connected with, we must see them clearly, stripped of the illusions we have woven. Ask yourself, are you embracing the person before you in their entirety, with all their virtues and flaws? Or are you holding onto an idealized version, reluctant to confront the discrepancies? Often, we ignore the red flags, the signs of discord, because we crave the comfort of familiarity. We allow our affection for the image we've created to overshadow the truth of who they are, thus binding ourselves not to the individual, but to an illusion of our own making. A relationship built upon illusion is like a mirage in the desert. It shimmers with promise from afar. But as we draw near, it evaporates, leaving only emptiness where once we imagined substance. Such connections cannot sustain us, for they are rooted in fantasy rather than reality. To move beyond illusion is an act of courage and respect, for ourselves and for the other. It is to say, I see you as you are, without adornment or embellishment, and I accept that truth. In doing so, we liberate ourselves from the chains of expectation and allow the relationship to evolve in alignment with what is real. This clarity brings with it a profound peace. For when we release the need for others to conform to our ideal, we free ourselves from disappointment and disillusionment. Acceptance of reality is not an act of resignation, it is a pathway to deeper connection, where relationships are built upon shared understanding rather than false hope. Thus, let us strive to approach each relationship with eyes unclouded, to meet each person as they are, not as we wish them to be. This is not to deny the beauty of human potential, but to honor the present reality without imposing our desires upon it. Embrace what is, and if the relationship falters under the weight of truth, allow it to drift away with grace. For the bonds that remain, grounded in authenticity, are far richer, far more sustaining than any illusion we could construct. True growth demands that we part ways with the fantasies that serve only to hinder our journey. To see another clearly is a gift, a rare and precious form of respect. In this way, we engage not with projections or dreams, but with the real, vibrant essence of those we love. It is here, in this acceptance of truth over illusion, that we find the foundation for relationships that can endure. For they are built not upon shifting sands, but upon the bedrock of honesty. So, let go of illusion, for it is a barrier to genuine connection. Face the reality of those around you, and in doing so, you honor both them and yourself. This is the way of wisdom, the way of courage. Embrace the truth, for it is the only path that leads to authentic, enduring bonds. Consider, then, the role of values as the true compass of our lives. Each of us, if we are to live with purpose and integrity, must hold firmly to the principles that define us. Values are not mere adornments of the character, they are the very foundation upon which we build our actions, our decisions, and indeed, our lives. In every relationship, whether of friendship, love, or duty, these values must remain our guiding light. For if we forsake them to please another, we surrender not only our own essence but the respect of the very person we sought to appease. The Stoics teach us that to live a life of virtue is to live in alignment with our innermost convictions, with the truths that resonate deeply within us. We cannot call ourselves virtuous if we allow external pressures to distort this alignment. Relationships should inspire us to become our best selves, not pull us away from the path of virtue. Compromise may be necessary in many things, for life demands flexibility. But compromise should never reach the core of who we are. The moment a bond asks us to betray that core, it ceases to serve as a support for our growth and becomes, instead, an impediment to our true purpose. If ever we find ourselves in a situation where we are asked, whether subtly or openly, to act against our values, let this be a sign. It is a call to pause and reflect. A moment to turn inward and ask, what is the price of this relationship? And is it worth the cost of my integrity? A wise soul does not barter with its principles, for once surrendered, they cannot be easily reclaimed. In matters of the heart, we must be vigilant, ensuring that our affections do not cloud our judgment. True love, true friendship, would never demand the relinquishment of one's values. Rather, it seeks to uphold and strengthen them. To remain steadfast in our values is not a sign of rigidity but of clarity and honor. When we stay true to what we believe, we do not merely protect ourselves, we offer a gift to those around us, a foundation upon which they, too, can trust and rely. For a relationship grounded in shared respect for each other's values is one that can withstand adversity, one that can grow without fear of hidden expectations or covert demands. It is a bond built upon mutual understanding and unwavering respect. We must remember that every time we uphold our principles, we reaffirm our worth. We declare to ourselves and others that we are not swayed by the winds of circumstance but anchored in the soil of our own beliefs. This is not pride, but integrity. It is the quiet strength that allows us to face life's challenges with dignity. When we act against our own values, we fracture this strength, weakening not only our self-respect, but also the foundation of any relationship that rests upon it. So stand firm in your values, not as a wall against others, but as a lighthouse, a beacon of constancy that guides both you and those who seek to journey alongside you. Let them see in you the example of a life lived with purpose, of choices made with conviction. And if they truly value you, they will honor this strength rather than seek to erode it. For it is only in the presence of such strength that true companionship can flourish, a companionship that honors the essence of who we are. Unyielding yet open, steadfast yet compassionate. Remember that in holding true to our values, we do not lose ourselves, but rather become more fully who we are. We offer the gift of authenticity, and in doing so, we invite others to do the same. It is through this mutual respect for each other's integrity that relationships find their deepest roots. And it is this respect that allows them to endure the trials of time. So guard your values as you would guard your life, for they are indeed the essence of your being, the compass that guides you through both light and shadow. In remaining true to them, you not only honor yourself, but also elevate every bond touched by your unwavering spirit. Contemplate the nature of reciprocity, for in it lies the essence of harmony within any true relationship. A bond founded upon one-sided giving and unreciprocated effort is like a ship that lists heavily to one side, unbalanced and unfit to weather the storms of life. Such a connection cannot endure without breeding resentment and weariness in the heart of the one who bears the weight alone. For when a relationship lacks the symmetry of give and take, it fails to fulfill its most fundamental purpose, to be a source of mutual strength and support, a sanctuary where each soul finds balance and replenishment. In this matter, let us take heed of the Stoic wisdom that calls us to mutual support. Friendship, love, and companionship are not merely for our comfort but are exercises in shared virtue, spaces in which we practice generosity, patience, and understanding. When we give, We give not for our own glory, nor for the silent expectation of something in return. We give because the act itself strengthens our own nature, aligning us with our highest virtues. Yet, while the Stoics commend selflessness, they also recognize the value of equity within human bonds. A relationship that is constantly nurtured by one while neglected by the other cannot be sustained. It risks falling into a lopsided dynamic that strains the spirit and distorts the natural balance. Therefore, when we invest time, care, and effort into another, it is not unreasonable to hope for a similar spirit in return, not out of selfish desire, but out of respect for the principles of fairness and mutual commitment. Each interaction, every shared moment, should carry the energy of reciprocity, a quiet acknowledgement that both souls are contributing to the bond. Healthy relationships are not built upon sacrifice alone, but upon shared joys, burdens, and aspirations. They are partnerships in which each party is uplifted by the other, and both are enriched. Ask yourself, then, whether the connections in your life are balanced in this way. Is there an exchange of encouragement and support? Or do you find yourself giving without receiving? Reaching without response? The Stoic approach is not to demand reciprocity as a right, but to seek relationships that naturally embody it. True companions are those who, recognizing your efforts, respond with their own, creating a cycle of mutual growth and fulfillment. Let us remember that in relationships where reciprocity is absent, one spirit is steadily drained. For the joy of giving diminishes when it meets only silence and indifference. No person can endlessly pour from an empty vessel, and no relationship can thrive where one serves only as a source, never as a recipient. Such connections, over time, sow seeds of bitterness and disappointment, eroding the goodwill that once may have bound the two together. Seek, then, the company of those who see and value your contributions, who answer your efforts with their own, who take delight not only in what they receive, but in what they, in turn, offer. In this balance lies the heart of every enduring relationship. To share equally in the burdens and the blessings. To give and to receive with a spirit of generosity and respect, this is the foundation upon which all lasting bonds are built. So let your relationships be partnerships of shared virtue, spaces where both parties contribute, each inspired by the other's dedication. A bond grounded in reciprocity is not merely sustained, it flourishes, each individual drawing strength from the harmony of their shared efforts. For in this symmetry, we find the fullness of companionship, a source of solace and encouragement that nourishes both lives involved. Thus, let reciprocity be not only a principle but a standard by which we measure the health of our connections. Cherish those who walk alongside you, who give as freely as they receive, and who understand that in mutual support, the bond is not only preserved but deepened. In this, we uphold the Stoic ideal of balance and enrich both our own lives and those of our companions, creating a fellowship that endures through all seasons, bound by the equal exchange of respect, care, and virtue. Reflect deeply upon the nature of abuse, for it stands as a grave offense not only to the body or mind, but to the very dignity that resides within each of us. Abuse, in whatever form it manifests, be it physical, emotional, or verbal, strikes at the essence of our worth, casting a shadow over our innate value and seeking to reduce what is inherently whole. To endure such treatment is not a reflection upon our worthiness, but upon the misguided cruelty of those who inflict harm. As followers of Stoic principles, we are called to recognize our own value and to uphold it with unwavering resolve, refusing to let others diminish the dignity that nature has instilled within us. The Stoics teach us that every soul possesses intrinsic worth, a worth that is inviolate and deserves our utmost protection. When another seeks to injure, to belittle, or to dominate. They do not merely offend us, they violate a sacred trust, disregarding the inherent dignity that we carry as rational beings. To tolerate such treatment is to risk losing sight of our own value. For each act of abuse erodes our sense of self, leaving us vulnerable to doubt, fear, and despair. Let us understand that leaving an abusive relationship is not an act of weakness or failure, but rather a profound affirmation of self-respect. To walk away from harm is to assert that we recognize our own worth and that we refuse to let another's cruelty define us. In departing, we do not retreat, we advance toward a life that honors our spirit and nurtures our dignity. This decision is not born of bitterness, but of wisdom. For we understand that we cannot grow, cannot pursue our true purpose, if we remain bound to those who seek to harm us. If we find ourselves entangled in such a relationship, Stoic wisdom implores us to seek strength and support. Reach out to those who care for you, for they are sources of guidance and refuge. We are not alone in this journey. To lean upon others in times of difficulty is not a sign of dependence, but a recognition that shared strength fortifies the soul. It is through these bonds of genuine care that we find the courage to distance ourselves from harm and to rebuild the integrity of our own spirit. Consider, too, that there is no shame in creating distance and setting boundaries that protect our well-being. To preserve our dignity is to fulfill a duty not only to ourselves but to the universal order, which calls us to honor our own worth as we would honor the worth of others. By stepping away from abuse, we are not rejecting our past or casting judgment upon another's soul. We are simply choosing to live in alignment with the principles of respect, virtue, and inner peace. Remember that the Stoic path is one of strength and clarity, where we confront challenges not with despair but with resolve. In choosing to leave an abusive situation, we reaffirm our commitment to live in harmony with our highest values. This choice may be difficult. It may test our courage, but it is a choice that leads us toward a life of integrity, a life where we are free to cultivate our own growth and pursue the tranquility that is our birthright. Let no one convince you that endurance of mistreatment is a virtue, for to suffer at the hands of another is to deny the sanctity of your own soul. Seek the strength to stand firm in the face of harm, to remove yourself from those who do not respect the light within you, and know that in doing so, you honor not only yourself but the very fabric of Stoic wisdom, which holds that every life is precious, every spirit worthy, and that none should endure diminishment at the hands of another. Thus, let your departure from harm be an act of self-affirmation, a testament to the resilience and worth that resides within. Stand resolute. Seek support from those who walk with compassion, and know that in choosing yourself, you uphold the highest Stoic ideal of living a life that reflects dignity, respect, and unwavering inner strength. Reflect upon the art of communication, for it is the bridge by which minds meet and souls connect. Clear and honest communication is not merely a tool but a foundation upon which trust, understanding, and genuine companionship are built. In the practice of Stoic wisdom, we are called to approach our words with calmness, with purpose, and with a mind unclouded by fleeting emotions. To speak with clarity is to respect both ourselves and those with whom we engage. For clarity is the expression of a mind that values truth above impulse. When we communicate, let us do so with wisdom and empathy, understanding that the words we choose carry weight and can either build bonds or fracture them. The Stoic way is not one of hasty reaction or defensive pride, but of thoughtful response, a response that seeks to illuminate rather than obscure, to mend rather than harm. In times of misunderstanding, let us first listen, truly listen, for in hearing the other's words without prejudice, we open a pathway to mutual understanding. Once we have listened, we may then seek to understand, not merely on the surface but in the depth of meaning that lies beneath. And only then with understanding as our guide. Should we respond thoughtfully, without the heat of anger or the sting of defensiveness? Consider that every interaction offers a choice to react with the turbulence of unchecked emotion or to respond with the steadiness of reason. The former may temporarily satisfy the ego, but it sows seeds of discord. The latter, however, nourishes the roots of peace and respect, allowing a relationship to thrive in the soil of trust. Let your words be deliberate and grounded, reflections of the inner peace you seek to cultivate. For only in this manner can we truly communicate with integrity. At the heart of Stoic philosophy lies a singular aim, the pursuit of inner tranquility. Tranquility is not the mere absence of conflict, but a profound state of harmony within oneself, a peace that remains steadfast amidst the inevitable changes and challenges of life. Relationships, then, are meant to be allies on this path to tranquility, not obstacles. They should serve as sources of support, companionship, and encouragement, lifting us closer to our highest purpose, not dragging us down with turmoil or strife. When a connection brings repeated stress or disturbance, it becomes essential to reflect on its place in our lives. Is this relationship nurturing our inner peace, or does it consistently unsettle it? The Stoics would remind us that the preservation of our tranquility must remain paramount, for it is within a peaceful mind that wisdom grows and virtue thrives. Thus, we must choose our companions with care, seeking those who respect our journey and contribute positively to our purpose. This is not a call to sever ties lightly or to abandon relationships at the first sign of conflict. Indeed, all relationships face trials, and it is often through navigating these that bonds are strengthened. Yet, we must discern between transient difficulties and persistent patterns of discord. If a relationship becomes a recurring source of disquiet, it may be a sign that it no longer aligns with the tranquility we strive to maintain. To let go in such instances is not an act of judgment or resentment, but a reaffirmation of our commitment to live in harmony with our values and to honor the peace we seek. Embrace relationships that bring clarity, understanding, and shared purpose. Surround yourself with those who, by their very presence, contribute to the calm steadiness of your inner life. And when parting from connections that disrupt this peace becomes necessary, do so with compassion and without bitterness, recognizing that each relationship has served a purpose in its season. Let us, then, be deliberate in our words and discerning in our relationships. For in doing so, we guard the tranquility that lies at the core of Stoic wisdom. To communicate effectively and to choose wisely those with whom we share our journey is to live with intention and to uphold the integrity of a life devoted to peace, purpose, and virtue. As we come to the end of this journey through Stoic wisdom and the art of relationships, let's carry forward the timeless lessons of clarity, courage, and compassion. Life is always changing, and the connections we nurture reflect not only who we are, but also who we are becoming. So, when you're at a crossroads, remember, it's not harsh to seek what truly nourishes your spirit. Honor the time shared with those who have journeyed with you, yet embrace the courage to release connections that no longer uplift or inspire. In making space for relationships that align with your highest self, you reaffirm your path toward peace, virtue, and fulfillment. Here's a question to ponder, and we'd love to hear your thoughts below. Is it ever truly possible to balance loyalty to others and loyalty to ourselves? Or must one always give way to the other? Share your perspective in the comments, and let's spark a thoughtful conversation. If this exploration has resonated with you, please like, share, and consider subscribing for more reflections like these. Help spread these insights by sharing with others who might find wisdom in the path of Stoic thought. Let's continue to build a community dedicated to a life of authenticity, wisdom, and growth.